Hello and welcome to Welcome Home Radio with your hosts, Blair Thomas and Tom Holm. The waters in the mortgage industry can be pretty muddy. Luckily, Welcome Home Radio has the answers for you, the consumer. And now, here are your hosts, Blair Thomas and Tom Holm.
And welcome to Welcome Home Radio. It is March 4th, right after Super Thursday, right?
See.
That's right. We had a wonderful Super Tuesday yesterday, and of course, in politics going, I was amazed at today in history.
Why?
I am excited and intrigued by March 4th. Today in history, Thomas Jefferson, 1801, is the first U.S. president inaugurated in Washington, D.C. on this date. But then...
In what?
In Washington, D.C.
Oh.
Inaugurated.
Inaugurated? Inaugurated.
Inaugurated. Okay. Hey, donut guy.
I'm just checking.
1861, Abraham Lincoln was also inaugurated. 16th. And FDR, the 32nd president, was also
which time
on this date.
Which time did that? Which
1933.
So they went a lot longer.
But guess what?
That was his first one.
There are 12 other presidents on this date as well. I couldn't believe it.
Well, I guess that was
not
traditionally what it was.
Uh-huh.
And
I
it must
guess.
have changed what? After World War II.
Well,
because now they do the inauguration in January.
Exactly. Huh. So it was intriguing to me.
Interesting. Okay.
And especially with all the activity.
PK, everything cool?
Hey, don't interrupt my opening. 1789, the first U.S. Congress meets and declares the Constitution is in effect with 9 senators and 13 representatives on this date in 1789. But here's the final one.
That's a good start.
Here's the final one. Well, the second to the final one. 1927.
Ooh, tough year.
Who becomes the highest paid player in the MLB history when he signs a 3-year deal, $70,000 per year?
I guess Babe Ruth.
Babe Ruth. Guess what that equates to in today's dollars?
70,000 in 1929. Whoosh.
1927.
27 still.
$1,010,695 equating to today.
Okay.
At these
so he got underpaid by today's
but at
MLB.
that standard, I'm sure everybody was going whoosh.
Well, yes.
Yes. You could buy a meal for 2 bits back then.
Yep. 1936, our final history in today's date, March 4th, 1936, was the first flight of the airship.
Lollipop?
Say it again. What year?
Oh, that's the good ship.
1936, first flight of the airship Hindenburg. That is correct.
See,
you know your history a little bit.
It's just a little bit.
Captain Obvious.
Welcome, Tom.
Yeah,
Captain Obvious.
Glad to have you here, Tom, the donut man.
The donut. You might
Thank you so
to our
much.
Listeners,
That's bacon donut man.
Well, I'm continually pulling these closer and closer to me.
I see.
Tom brought wonderful donuts. A bacon donut, bacon and maple. Oh man, it just smelled good. Alan, how are you, sir? You're all in your green with your stars.
Yeah, I like hockey.
Yeah, how's Link going for you?
Oh.
You don't want chocolate. A donut, do you?
I miss my chocolate.
He can't have chocolate. He can have bacon.
He can have bacon. There's 3 of them in there.
Yeah.
And welcome to the show. I just love seeing you again, sir. PK Kelly, owner of Kitchen Tune-Up. So glad you're here today.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Man, glad you're here. I mean, how was the weather today? Everybody was scared about rain. No big deal, right?
Scared?
Feels good.
Yeah.
I'm melting.
Well, Wizard of Oz, you're going way back.
Yeah.
At least it's not too cold.
It's not cold.
52.
Is that it?
Mm-hmm.
It's really not that bad.
I thought you were calling out my age. I'm sorry.
Hey, the first
I
thing...
said 42.
Before we get to Kitchen Tune-Up, and again, we're doing a springtime tune-up. Last week we talked about the outside, and we had on Mike Majeski of Prestige Home Inspection. So glad he was here. And today we've got PK here talking about springtime tune-up, what we can do interior. But I want to get to something that I think is important to our listeners, and I think important that we discuss this because some things happened yesterday that are very critical to the market. Now, what's been going on in the market recently in the last week and a half?
The decision for Tom to never retire.
Oh, okay. Well, that's true. That's true.
Panic.
And the stock market is
collapsed.
bouncing around. Now it's gonna come back. I'm very confident
It's
of that.
corrected.
But
At this point, it's corrected.
But let's get to a serious point. What
My
did the
mom
Fed
used
do?
to
What did the
correct
Fed
me.
do yesterday?
Lowered interest
something
rates
that won't
again.
affect us in the mortgage business. But
I'm glad. That's why we want to bring this up.
Yeah.
Everybody hears about a 50 basis point cut by the Fed, and everybody thinks that that's going to impact rates. In fact, it did impact rates, but not the way you think they would.
correct.
They're trying to spark the stock market. They're trying to feed. I don't know why. Why can't they just leave it alone and let it run like it does, and it will correct itself in a period of time once fear-mongering gets over with? But that's my opinion. But we have clients. You have clients. We all have clients that are sitting here thinking about, hey, the Fed closed or cut the rate. It should be affecting my interest rate. No, that is not how it works. The Fed rate does not impact the bond market rate that we work on. And in fact, because the business has been so good, because we've been at low interest rates, refis are going nuts, what does most small and large lenders do? They want to kind of control their pipeline by they're going to raise the rates a little bit. And they have, as effectively yesterday that I'm aware of, and what I've seen in our systems, everybody has raised by at least quarter of a point or an eighth. Would you say that's true across the market?
Is that what happened yesterday?
Seriously, come on. Help our listeners.
I did not follow it
I tell you,
yesterday.
I tell you
but
what.
This is exactly again, your point to be made. Fed rates do not affect us. I mean, they affect big, huge companies that are borrowing large sums of money from Chase Bank
Yes.
and Wells Fargo and different money venues with insurance companies. And again, all it does is feed the profitability of large companies. It doesn't do anything for the consumer per se. Even our interest rates on our credit card, which you would think would be tied to something of that nature, you'll see the credit card folks are what? Still raising their rates because they do it based off of risk of person, and they're going to charge the people that are higher risk. They're going to charge everybody across the board for people that are higher risk that they now allow in their
Yes.
pools to borrow money on credit cards.
Yes.
So this is not a consumer-affected type circumstance.
Just
That is what I want to bring out.
really quickly.
Yes.
One of my clients is going to call in today and ask about just this subject. About
That's
refi.
awesome. That's awesome.
Good deal.
Might be doing it right
Might
now.
be doing it, and that's fine. But
But I want to say one more thing, though. One thing that really charged the
No,
stock
you
market
already said you wanted to do
yesterday
one thing.
was Biden actually beating out Sanders a little bit. I think a lot of people were a little nervous about that, and I think it had a big impact on the stock market last night.
Well, I think Americans
Why?
were heard
Because
that
it's
socialism.
up today.
Pardon me?
It's up today.
It's up big today.
Big today.
and it's
That's right.
yeah.
I
and-
think America spoke very largely that socialism, whether Democratic or Republican, was not an acceptable way to go for this country.
No, but it did cause concern in the stock market.
Oh, sure.
You can read a lot of articles about it.
Well, not only that, but the coronavirus, those two things are there. We have a caller in. Who do we have?
Someone with
Hello.
a question.
Hello.
Question for you. Hello.
Hey, Rick, is this you, buddy?
It is.
Hey, Rick. How can we help you?
Good to talk to you guys. Hey, wanted to ask you a question. I recently refinanced my home, and this is literally back in the December time frame. It took it from a 4%, I think, down to a roughly 3.75%. But with the interest rates and the news this week on those being lowered, I'm trying to determine if it's worth it for me to go back and try and refinance it again, or if it's something that I should wait for, a couple of years and see if I can do another swing at bat at that point.
Okay, well, my first question is, how long are you going to be in the house? I mean,
I
is this
expect it's going to be a home that's going to be in for a long time.
for a fairly long time? Have you, that question always revolves around, and then the improvement of rate and how much interest you'll pay. You refinance to a 30-year note in December or a 15-year note?
A 30-year note.
Okay, would you look at a 15-year note? It'll probably still make your payment go up, but is that is that a thought that you might entertain?
Yeah, I would think I entertain that idea.
Okay, because now at a 3% type interest rate, or maybe even below that on a 15-year refinance, yeah, that's going to save you. How big is your mortgage? Do you mind?
With PMI, I think I pay roughly $2,600 a month.
But I mean, how much have you borrowed?
I'm sorry. It's 300, a little bit over 300,000.
You're going to save $100,000 in interest
Easily.
easily.
Okay.
Huge.
Shut
huge
15
amount.
years out. That's the way to go.
Yeah, especially, I mean, we're talking about probably the sooner the better since you're in the first year of your 30-year mortgage. And
Okay.
There's always additional cost. Obviously, when you're doing this type of situation, you could look at your lender perhaps paying your costs through premium pricing. But you said you have MIP or PMI. Did you have an FHA loan or a conventional loan?
I think it's a conventional loan.
Okay. Well, maybe again with housing prices going up and everything, that might even be reduced as far as the mortgage insurance
Easily, or
goes.
go single payment and get it out of the way.
In the area he's in, they're definitely going up.
Going up
Yep.
still. Okay.
You can call your lender, or you can call us here, and I'll be glad to work with you on that. Either way, but yes, it's worth it if you shut down the 15, going down to
Boy.
15. But if you're just going
30 to 30.
no,
No.
I wouldn't do
No.
it. It's not worth the
No,
cost.
no.
Okay.
Rick,
Great.
we can talk about it some more, bud. And if you're interested, I'll put you in touch with Blair.
That sounds good. I appreciate it, fellas.
Thanks for the call, Rick.
Okay, enjoy the show. Thanks.
Thank you. And anyone can call in on 877-337-5844. Call us with those questions. Again, thanks, Rick. You kind of bring out what we're trying to state on the market is that the Fed cutting that interest rate is not going to affect the home mortgage interest rate products. In fact, it is negatively impacting. I saw 1/8 of a point going up on most of my
When was that?
this
Today?
morning.
Okay.
This morning.
Yeah, and anytime you're trying to time a market, that's hard to do, period, end of story.
Would you explain the bond borrowing connection again, the bond market versus the Federal Reserve lowering rates? Because I don't think people get that.
Well, there's a difference between the market, the stock market, and the Fed and what they're trying to do on borrowing, because the Fed loans to banks. Mortgage-backed securities is what we work in. That's a large producing Fannie, Freddie, Ginnie, VA, USDA, and of course Tom's our expert. I want him to take this a little bit further for us, our listeners. But that is two different markets, and help us understand that a little bit further. I think it's a great question.
It is.
That
It really
why
is.
they don't.
Why they don't relate is, I mean, if I'm Toyota Motor and I need to go and borrow money to, and Toyota Motor, we're talking about lines of credit like $1 billion, $2 billion. They get charged a best rate by banks. Well, the banks that give them that money, and again, the Chases, the Wells of the world that set those lines of credit up for them, are basing it off how much or how cheaply they can borrow money from the Fed. So the repayment of the loan that they're getting, if the Fed lowers it 0.5%, literally, over time, that's going to save them billions of dollars with regards to what they will pay to have borrowed money to do sundry different things: research and development, build buildings, pay their payroll.
Small
whatever
business?
it is. Small business.
Even small business.
And even small business is the same way. So our guest
I
today
could-
will probably want to tell us about how much money he's borrowed. Maybe not.
If I could, Tom, before